You're watching part 4 of a chatty interview series with a very good friend of mine, plant-based nomad, Sophie. If you still haven't, definitely go back and watch part 1, where we explained our kind of fun story, how we got to know each other, and discussed why it's so important to surround yourself with people who think alike. In part 2, Sophie shared her transitioning story, what were her reasons and triggers. In part 3, which was a very exciting episode, she shared her traveling experiences all over the world: Japan, Thailand, Taiwan, Bali, Portugal, States, UK. In this final episode, we will be addressing a topic that many people resonate with when transitioning to plant-based diet, and that is dealing with your families and friends and gatherings and holidays. Sophie has some very fun stories from both her family and her partners, and once again, Sophie is very good with valuable takeaways. She will be giving us 3 great tips on how to deal with your families and friends.
Because I think some people feel affronted by your change of lifestyle.
I mean, you can escape from your friends, but you can't escape from your families.
My mum felt it was very extreme. Well, I kill the bacteria in my eye every day. It's no different from killing an animal. And he was like, ha 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 ha, having this laugh to himself. And I was like, what's so funny? And he went, oh, well, there was butter drizzled all over those. No wonder you enjoyed them. A huge part of being in a healthy relationship is being able to grow together. So thankfully for us, we had supportive partners who actually hugely benefited from the lifestyle and are really on board and really supportive and just great and just with us, and we're moving together in a parallel, which is fantastic. But our close family is still there, and so are our friends that existed before we made this transition. And as easy as it is to say, it doesn't matter what anybody else says to you or what anybody else thinks about it, it really does affect you, particularly in the beginning. And it can be quite difficult and surprising, the different reactions that you have from family members. Because I think some people feel affronted by your change of lifestyle. And even
families are something you can't escape from. I mean, you can escape from your friends, but you can't escape from your families. Family is something that, you know, you can have really strong values in life and you can think, no, this is the way I'm going, but actually you always have to make an exception for your family, because family's family and they're always there. So as much as it's thinking about how you feel going into your family as a different person or somebody with a different lifestyle, it's also, I think, really relevant to think about how other people feel about it too, and how they perceive you, and how that can maybe evolve over time. Initially, my mum felt it was very extreme. Like, for some reason, being vegetarian was acceptable, but going fully vegan was very extreme. That's the word she used. My dad was kind of just eye-rolling and just not even interested, and saying silly things to me like, well, I kill the bacteria in my eye every day. It's no different from killing an animal. Like, as if you can even compare like bacteria to an animal with a nervous system. So I got lots of different reactions, and actually that has evolved over time, and it still has its own difficulties too, even though everybody's used to how things are now. So one thing I would say in the beginning is really, really, and this goes back to doing your research and having that information, people will challenge you, and people will have these strong beliefs that have been hammered into their heads since they were a child, by parents, by people they trust, people that taught them at school, teachers, doctors, and they still... And not to blame them, it's the way they were brought up.
Because we were there 2 seconds before, before we made a decision to change, we didn't know either. And to have that patience with people, and to often agree to disagree. You know, you can't change everything, and that's something that we've discussed, is that we entered into this new knowledge and this new direction in our lives, thinking, well, if everybody else has this knowledge, if I can only impart it to them.
Yeah, being like really enthusiastic about it. Yeah.
And I can bring them this dish and they're going to change their mind just like I did, because we probably think, oh,
and
well,
then you hit the wall, and it's, the first time it's kind of disappointing.
It's really, it's really disappointing, and you think everybody's going to be the same as you, that they jump on board and that they have the same enthusiasm, and it's just not like that. Like, the reality is that people don't make the change, and that's okay. That not everybody has to swim in the same direction as you. And actually, something that I've realised with this different lifestyle of travelling and this different direction I've taken with my way of life, the way that I eat, because it does become a way of life. It does. It threads all your values together in a certain direction, let's say.
Yeah, when you go into it, you don't think of it as restricting something or that you will be deprived of something, but it's a whole shift of paradigm, basically.
It really is.
You go into this new lifestyle and you're really happy and content about it. It's not that maybe the people who are outside think that you are, like you are miserable, you're struggling, you always want to go back to the other circle. But it's not that way. You have a shift in your mind, basically, and you actually enjoy your life much more than you did before.
One thing that I think has popped up for me a couple of times, and for you also, is that sometimes family members will kind of trick you, for want of a better word, and you'll think that a dish that they've made might be vegan or plant-based, and actually it's not.
This is when they want to be evil.
Yeah, I think, I'll tell you the story and then I'll give you my thoughts. So what happened to me was there was a particular vegetable dish which in Ben's family, when we're having Thanksgiving, because he's American, I'm from England, so we don't have the same celebration, but certainly I love taking part in his family celebration. A certain vegetable dish was allocated to a certain family member to do, because we all have our different roles, and I believed that it was completely plant-based, and I think I even complimented him after and said, "Oh, delicious carrots, thank you." And he was like, ha 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 ha, having this laugh to himself, and I was like, "What's so funny?" Thinking, what did I say? And he went, "Oh well, there was butter drizzled all over those, no wonder you enjoyed them." And so I had to really just take a moment, because I went really red to begin with. I was really shocked, because it's not what I wouldn't want to eat butter, I wouldn't want to ingest butter. That's number one. And the second thing was, I felt a bit upset that he had done that and was laughing about it, that he found that to be funny. But I had to just swallow it down.
Says certain things about him.
Yeah. I had to kind of just take a moment and actually how I reacted was to just laugh it off. And I was like, "Oh, haha, Paul, pulled one over me there," or something like that. And the reason that I did that, and rather than having an argument, was because I had to have a bit of empathy and compassion for him. And the reason is that he doesn't know all the things that I know, and he doesn't know where I'm coming from. And I think he thinks that because it's a holiday, it's a nice treat for me. And I think that
you're missing out.
Yeah, that he just thought, well, she wouldn't normally have it herself, but I've given it to her and she's had a nice experience with it. That's a good thing. It's a holiday. Live a little kind of thing. But he doesn't know the stuff that I know. He doesn't know the health implications. He doesn't know the ethical implications. He doesn't know that it, doesn't feel good to me, that it's not appealing to me. It's not something that makes me have an appetite. It's the opposite. He doesn't know all of those things. So to just understand that he's coming from a different place to me, and that he isn't a nasty person. I don't think he was meaning to be spiteful. And it was a bit naughty how he did that, but I don't think it was coming from a bad place. And so if I could give you any advice about that, I would just be prepared sometimes that might happen, but to just put yourself in the other person's shoes and remember that they don't know the same things that you know, and they don't have the same beliefs, and that often they're coming from a point of they just want you to enjoy something, as opposed to they're trying to trick you and be horrible.
Yeah.
So that's,
and argument often doesn't take you anywhere.
No, it doesn't. And if you feel like you're separated from your family, an argument is just going to put a giant wedge in between you, and that's not what any of us want. We all want to have this cohesive, easy relationship with people, especially on a holiday. and we don't want to come across as being too controlling or too rigid. You know, and that takes me into my next point, that sometimes we can make concessions, and it's important to adjust a little bit sometimes. So my second anecdote is about this dish that I created before I went whole food plant-based, and maybe my first Thanksgiving with Ben's family. And it was an English dish that we always have at Christmas time, which is roasted carrots and parsnips with honey and mustard, and some rosemary, and you put them in the oven and they're really delicious. And I made it the first year, and everyone loved it, and everyone said, oh, we want this to be part of our Thanksgiving tradition as well. This is Sophie's English gift to our meal kind of thing. And so every year since then they've said, oh, Soph, can you make the carrots and parsnips for us again? So knowing that a carrot and parsnip that will be oven baked without oil would be quite a different kind of story. I kept the oil, and I wouldn't normally cook with oil, but I made a concession because it's a holiday and it's because it's something they enjoyed. And I swapped the honey for maple syrup, so at least it was vegan, and I still continue to make them and they still continue to enjoy them. No one's any the wiser that I even swapped out the ingredients. But I just wanted to say that although we strive to be living this certain way and upholding these values every day, sometimes it's okay to make a concession, and that's when other people are involved and it's a dish that you bonded over or something that's important to them, that's your important contribution to the meal. I think it's okay if it's a holiday or something like that to make concessions from time to time, and to not beat yourself up about that, or to not be too strict on yourself or too hard on yourself either. It's a holiday, and so just to have that sometimes is up to you, and that's perfectly acceptable. And I think it's often quite a healthy thing to do in terms of your relationship with your family.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's about the progress, not the perfection. And in your experience, what are the main tips when it comes to families and friends?
We've talked before about trying to create new traditions. So what the traditions that came before we made this change in our life are very strong, and they're held very deeply by our families. But that doesn't mean to say that we can't create new traditions. And by introducing maybe a new dish or maybe something like a game or some kind of theme that we maybe introduce that's new, that we do every year, that's a lovely way to create a new tradition. And it doesn't have to block anybody out. It can be all inclusive. So I think just have that mindset, rather than, it's about seeing the good sides of it again, about thinking what you've left behind in the past, about allowing family to be sad for you that you can't partake in this anymore. Just create something new that's joyful that everybody can partake in, and set new traditions. I think that's a lovely way to take a good foot forward into your new lifestyle with family, and to make it a positive experience for them as well. The second thing I would say is to be patient with people. And again, this comes back to kind of having that compassion, that empathy for where other people may be in their life. To remember that you once were without this knowledge as well, and that you may have acted the same in their shoes, you know, that you can understand where they're coming from. To just have patience and compassion for them.
Which can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, it really
it's so
can.
worth trying.
Well, if you change your life, it's because you feel strongly about it. And if you feel strongly about it, emotions are wrapped up in it, and lots of other things, and it can be hard not to let that bubble to the surface. And it takes time, it really does. But if you can understand where people are coming from a bit more, it often will make things a bit easier on you. And another thing I would say is that initially in the beginning we talked about how we wanted to spill out this information to our families and help them, you know, and they didn't see it as help, and there's a lot of pushback from them. What I would say is that I left that a long time ago, and I've kind of let the ideas percolate, if I can use that expression. So just for people to just sit and see, but through my actions, how I live my life, and to just see how healthy I am and how healthy my partner Ben is as well. And I think if you plant a seed often, it will grow later. And at the beginning, it's hard to have that perspective, that kind of bigger view on things, because you're in the here and now and everything's new and it's all really, really intense. If you just let things roll by as normal, people will start coming towards you with questions and interests, and it's in a positive way. So just to let things percolate, sow a seed and just show by action. No need to show by mouth. Just show how you live, and people will naturally be interested, I think.
Walk your talk.
And the third thing I would say, which is a good advice in life anyway, is to just be prepared. So be prepared for questions, be prepared for debates, even though you may not want them. Have that knowledge ready to fire away. Or not. Be prepared to say, I'd rather not get into this, I'd rather not debate it. I could send you a few articles online. Have your response prepared. Something that my partner Ben mentioned to me is that people will often say things like, oh, just have a piece of cake, it's only once a year, it's a holiday, relax, enjoy yourself, and they're kind of like shoving it under your nose. So I think it's really helpful to have a response prepared for that, because they're not doing it horribly, and you don't want to make an awkward scene when it's a holiday. They're doing it with love, but you also need to be able to...
You don't want to get dramatic.
That's right, yeah. And you want to be able to contain the situation without offending anybody or changing the atmosphere. So just have some different phrases up your sleeve. One that I always like to do is kind of like a delay tactic. So I'll go, oh, I'd love to. Do you mind if I have it later? I'm just finishing my tea. Or, oh, I'm just going to clear the dishes and then I'll have it. And by that time, everybody's finished anyway. They're probably on to the next thing or the next drink, let's be fair. And they've completely forgotten in the moment's past. So there's different ways that you can just dodge the bullet. And if you have those lines prepared in your mind, I think it just makes it easier rather than in the moment you say something that's a bit too strong, or you cave, or you offend somebody or something like that. Just have that really neutral, nice response prepared.
Or you can just say that, oh, I'm so full at the moment.
Yeah,
everything was so good. I
your
ate so
food
much.
was amazing. Yeah, exactly.
Not at the moment, thank you. Maybe later.
Yeah. Brilliant delay tactic. Yeah, that's so true. And then later they've forgotten all about it anyway.
Okay, thank you once again, Sophie, for investing your time coming here, talking with me on my YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
So here I am again, walking alone in the park as Sophie has gone to the States. I hope you enjoyed our chats together and that you got some practical information and tips. And if you did, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell button to get notifications, and I will see you in my next video.